Hello and welcome to this week's Strange Pathways. I am your host, Scott Mort. I hope you're having a fantastic week. Um, if if you're so inclined, I could use some good vibes, prayers, really anything. For the first time in quite a while, I'm going to have to look for work. My area that I live in, Johnstown, Pennsylvania, is amazingly depressed. And I have a feeling, I'm fairly certain, I'm not going to find anything that pays as well as what I've got right now. But unfortunately right now is coming to an end. I don't know when, and that's honestly one of the worst things about it. It's like this big sword of Damocles hanging above me. I do have a few options to go back to, but they're very soul crushing options. But I will go back to them if need be necessary. But, like I said, if you could say a little prayer for me, some good vibes sent my way, I would really appreciate it. Our first story comes to us once again, Lon Strickler's phantomsandmonsters.com. A gentleman wrote into Lon Strickler saying that one day his pop, I love that. I love that. His pop. My dad, his grandfather, he always called his dad, my grandfather, always called him Pop. And that was always that nickname. And that just kind of brought a little smile. But he said one day he was sitting down with his pop. And he says, I want to tell you this story. His pop and his pop's twin sister lived at their grandmother's house. It was a very heavily forested area outside of Louisville, Kentucky. And much like myself growing up, a lot of times the quickest way to get any place was through the woods. That's the way it was for me. I knew that if I wanted to go to Garlett's grocery store, for example, in Salisbury, where I grew up, I could either not walk through the woods, and it would take an hour on foot, or I could walk through the woods and be there and back in 15 minutes. So I get that. Walking through the woods. Pop, his twin sister, they're walking, taking that shortcut. And in the backyard, they get to the tree line. And that's whenever they see an all red, 7-foot tall, half man, half bull, a Minotaur. Now his pop tells him this red monster, he had the upper body of a man, but he had curved horns on his head. The lower body, 2 hairy legs with hooves. This monster, it's snorting, and it's snarling, and it's kicking the ground. It's got its eyes right on them, pawing at the ground with its hoof. It's going to charge at them. This thing is malevolent. The only thought in this monster's head is to hurt these 2 children. Pop looks over at his sister. He says, we need to get out of here now. The twin sister looks at Pop and says, what are you talking about? This is adorable. They were seeing the same creature, but she was seeing something completely different. She said this creature was calling to her, and it looked cute. It was adorable. She wanted to pet it. Pop refuses, forces her away. The writer of the story says that, his pop never really told ghost stories. So this hit him kind of hard. A few years later, he goes and visits his aunt, Pop's twin sister. And he's expecting the aunt to say, nah, nothing true. He takes the opportunity as Pop's not in the room. She matches up Pop's story word for word. Except for, of course, the creature, the monster. It's all red and cute. This is the point where the author of this tale says it goes from kind of, maybe this is just a tale, to straight up believing Pop and his aunt. His aunt, unfortunately, murdered in Los Angeles in 2016. The reason why his Pop thinks that his twin sister saw this cute little caricature, a cartoonish red Minotaur, and he saw this snarling, spitting, angry beast. He had accepted Jesus into his life. She hadn't. Now, far be it from me. I don't push religion on anybody. I think your religion is your business, mine is mine. And maybe it's just the simple act of believing in that higher faith. It's the only thing, though, that Pop can really put his finger on. And he said he never saw it again after that. It was gone. For our next tale, we're going to go all the way back to September of 1811. Danzig, Prussia. Don't bother looking for Danzig on a map. It doesn't exist anymore. The same area is now called Gdansk. It's in Poland. There's a captain, Fritz Allswanger. He's hugely decorated. He's a knight of the Legion of Honor. He's respected. He's liked. He's liked by both his men. He's liked by the city's population. But this man is going to be publicly branded as a thief. He's going to be kicked out of the service. Allswanger had been lodging with the family, and a ring had gone missing. A man came forward and said, I have this ring. Captain Allswanger sold it to me. They go to the captain. They say, did you steal the ring? Did you sell it? And he said, yes. Yes, I did. So many were stunned. Allswanger knew that he would be kicked out of the military dishonorably. Not just that, he was going to be banished from his homeland of France, kicked out of an entire country. Allswanger signed a confession, and he's put in jail. The court-martial trial is set for the next day. His friends, his men, they visit Allswanger in prison, and they say, do something. Defend yourself. Do something. Allswanger says, no, that's okay. I will take my punishment. I'll do what I have to do. The trial lasts a shockingly short 3 hours. Allswanger, he accepts his sentence. He doesn't appeal. He doesn't even request mercy. They even recommended, ask for mercy. You've got good conduct. You've got years of service behind you. No, I will take my punishment, Allswanger said. His punishment? Held in prison for 1 year, dishonorable discharge, and then he is to return to the military as just a lowly private. As Allswanger's being led to prison, he says, "May I speak to the general in charge?" They oblige him. And he goes up to the general and says, "Hey, I'm not Captain Fritz Allswanger. I'm just this guy. I'm a son of some tradesman in Strasbourg. Fritz Allswanger's dead. My name is Diderici." Diderici begins to tell this tale. I was supposed to be a shoemaker, he says. I learned to play the guitar. I could never find a steady job. I had a few coins. I was at a lemonade shop in Aquila, in Italy. And these soldiers were looking at me, just really, really staring at me. And I could hear they were talking about me. Now, what had happened was these soldiers looking at Diderici, they're really, really laughing and kind of giggling, hushed tones. Finally, one of the soldiers walks over, says, "Hey, what's your name?" The soldier looks almost exactly like Diderici himself, right down to the way they styled their beard. The soldier goes, "Do you need a job?" Diderici says, Yeah, actually I do." He goes, "I'd like you to be my valet." This soldier was Lieutenant Fritz Allswanger. And he thought it was just the funniest thing in the world to have a valet that looked exactly like him. Diderici would often dress in the soldier's clothes. Allswanger would dress up as Diderici. He'd invite guests over, have a grand old time with this amazing coincidence that the two men looked exactly alike. Now, Diderici, he would avoid talking a lot because his speech was kind of rough. It was the easiest way to tell who was Allswanger and who was Diderici just by the manner of speaking. And this ruse, this fun, goes on for years. Until one autumn. Allswanger got very, very drunk. Diderici, who does enjoy Allswanger's company, he helps Allswanger home. Allswanger is getting really, really sick. His head hurts so much. Diderici gives him a cool cloth for his head, a little bit of lemonade. He puts Allswanger to bed. In the morning, they had this little morning ritual where Diderici would bring Allswanger a little bit of chocolate. But this morning, instead, Allswanger was dead. And that's whenever Diderici realized this was an amazing opportunity. He switches clothes with Allswanger. He picks up Allswanger's body, places it in his bed. He goes back. He lays down in Allswanger's bed. And then, an hour or so later, he calls the other servants. And together they discover the valet dead in the servant's bed. Of course, the valet, Allswanger. Diderici calls doctors, makes a show of it. He pretends to be grieving. He's using this time to get familiar with the letters Allswanger's been writing, practicing his signature. He's not interacting with anybody. And a doctor comes by and says, Allswanger, you need a change of scenery. That's perfect. Move to a new place. Everybody thinks I'm Allswanger, but I can move to a new place and keep this ruse going. He leaves behind everybody who is very, very familiar with Allswanger. He's transferred from Italy to France, leaves everyone behind. At one point, Diderici does have to visit Allswanger's family. He was able to fool the father, but the mother kind of had suspicions. He had to keep this up for 4 days, and he receives the orders to go to France. Doesn't really interact with them again as Allswanger, just sends him a couple of letters every once in a while. And to be fair, once Diderici was in France, it was him. It was Diderici that earned his way up from lieutenant to captain. It was Diderici who really won the hearts and minds of the soldiers, the townspeople. His superiors really, really respected him. Diderici even said, I confessed the crime to keep the good man that Allswanger was. I'm confessing to all this because Allswanger was a good man. His name does not deserve this. I won't sully Allswanger's name with what I did. Of course, there were those that thought Diderici had killed Allswanger. News of this went all the way up to the Emperor, Napoleon Bonaparte. few months afterwards, Napoleon Bonaparte acquits Diderici of the suspicion of having murdered Allswanger, but not of the theft, not of stealing the name. Diderici was branded a thief between his shoulders. And he was to spend the rest of his life in the galleys. The sentence was passed. Diderici was taken to the town square to be branded. Most of the town's population still loved Diderici. They threw their purses, bouquets of flower at him as he's being branded to show, we still love you. That's powerful. That's very, very powerful. Diderici, he spends most of his time in Wechselmund prison in Danzig. One day, Diderici is out in the exercise yard of the prison, walking in a line. In the view of prisoners, guards, Diderici gets a little hard to see. You can kind of see through him at one point. There's this foggy mist. He begins to fade away in this foggy mist. And then he completely disappears. The iron chains clank to the ground. Diderici is never seen again. Our last tale takes us all the way back to November of 1991, Devon, England. I got this story from thinkabouitdocs.com, an amazing resource. Huge thank you to my friend Josh for originally sending me here many, many months ago. It's an amazing source of a lot of high, strange incidents. This unnamed family is starting to have paranormal experiences in their homes. Usually, not always, but usually, these are happening at nighttime. It starts off small. A couple of noises. Things you can't quite make out, whispers. And then it ramps up, footsteps. And then it ramps up from there. It starts to build. The wife of the family wakes up one night. Something is pushing against her chest. Nothing's there. She can't see anything. But something is there, pushing against her chest. But then, one night, the wife wakes up. And she sees 4 people in her room. She sees right through them. They're transparent. They're wearing old clothing, old-fashioned clothing. Well, if I would wake up and see 4 people in my room that I can see through wearing old-fashioned clothing, I would classify that as ghosts. Correct? Ghosts. I'm sure that's what you thought. That's what I'm thinking. But standing further back from them is a creature. It's tall, spindly body, a large head, large eyes, small mouth, barely their nostrils, no nose. This is a gray, an alien. There's not a lot more about this case. I tried to dig in. I tried to do more research about this, but I was unable to find anything more about this case. I mean, really, what do I have to go on? November of 1991, Devon, England. I would love to know more about this. If anybody out there does know more about this, please mail me strangepathwaysmail@gmail.com. But I found this very, very interesting. And I'll tell you why. If I'm out in the woods and I see a bright light and a light comes down, starts to lift me up, well, that's a UFO sighting. But if I'm inside of a house, levitation, strange lights, that's a haunting. There's some sort of connection there. A lot has been made about the UFO Bigfoot connection, especially near me on the Chestnut Ridge. There have been a lot of sightings of Bigfoot and UFO happening at the exact same time. A lot of times with one interacting with the other. And here we have a case of ghosts interacting with an alien gray. I'm doing research right now. I'm trying to find a case where Bigfoot interacts with ghosts. But I really and truly, honestly believe that what we're seeing here, Bigfoot, ghosts, and UFOs, it's all the same phenomena behaving in different ways. In much the same way that the theory that light and gravity and time are the same thing, acting in different ways. Then these three things seem to be, in my mind, the same phenomena behaving differently. Please go out there. Check out the book Passport to Magonia by Jacques Vallée. It touches on this. I'm going to dig further into this. Am I going to figure it out? Probably not. Most likely not. I probably have a better chance of winning the lottery 5 times in a row. But it'd be nice. Wouldn't it be wonderful if there were guys like Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud who devote their life to the paranormal instead of psychology, just for example. There are people who have devoted their lives to this. Stan Gordon comes immediately to mind. Charles Fort, Dr. Joseph Rhine, Professor William McDougall, people who have devoted themselves to this. But where are the new Dr. Rhines coming from? Where are the new Stan Gordons? I hope they're out there. Thank you for joining me again this week on Strange Pathways. Please head over to our Facebook page. We're going to have a few photos up there dealing with the cases we spoke about today. Like, comment, subscribe over on YouTube. Tell a friend, review us over on Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars. It really does help. I have been seeing people suggesting us on message boards, and it does my heart so much good. Thank you so much. Take care of yourselves and each other.